Hello there. Big arrests could be coming down the pipe in the EU Parliament, thanks to an MEP whistleblower who is spilling the beans on QatarGate. Do you remember that EU Parliament corruption case where MEPs were arrested over allegations of selling their votes so that Qatar could get the World Cup, with stories of police raids and suitcases stuffed with euros? Well, it all suddenly went very quiet, and if you were cynical, you might think there are attempts being made to bury it, especially as the investigation widens out to include more perpetrators and more vote-buying countries. And bubbling around in the background is one of the arrested former Italian MEP Pier Antonio Panzeri striking a deal with the Belgian investigators to blow the gaff on the graft scandal rocking Brussels. And according to reports, he's the ringleader and will plead guilty while taking his co-conspirators down with him. And he's doing this under a plea bargain law based on the Italian provision for dealing with repentant mafia members who turn on their former business partners. And in return for a reduced sentence, he has to give full information of the whos and the whens and the wheres, as well as details of all the bribes. Now, the Belgian police initially arrested 4 suspects, including Greek MEP and former Vice President of the EU Parliament, Eva Kaili. But there could be 4 new names added to that list quite shortly. And there is talk of many EU Parliament politicians, officials and lobbyists and their families having been influenced by the Qatari, Moroccan and Mauritanian governments via corruption, money laundering and even organised crime. No wonder Brussels and our Ramona rejoiner establishment and press are doing all they can to keep the lid on it. Because it bolsters the Eurosceptic argument, and that would never do. And Spiked Online said, "This fear of promoting Euroscepticism is clearly behind the UK media's effective blackout of the scandal." And one former Spanish foreign minister and former advisor to the EU Commission, Arantxa González, said that this scandal could call the whole legitimacy of the European project into question. Now, our pro-EU lobby tries to counter this by pointing at the Tories' recent sleazy record as if that somehow makes it okay to be sleazy in the EU. They point at dodgy dealings here in the UK while trying to completely airbrush corruption in the EU from the history books. The corruption of selling votes and selling out democracy itself to the highest bidder. Don't let the Ramonas in the UK underplay this very serious issue. And suddenly Nicola Sturgeon goes all transparent and publishes her tax returns, saying she hopes Rishi Sunak will soon follow suit. But this move comes after years of failing on her promises to publish them, going back to at least 2016. So why now? What's changed? Has her accountant only just finished working the figures out? Or could it be linked to her now plummeting popularity? Is it just an opportunistic political stunt to try and straighten her now very skewed halo? Is it to try and help her brush her disastrous gender recognition policies under the carpet? Could it be an attempt to stop support for her IndieRef 2 continuing sliding downhill? Or is there something else waiting to be buried in the news? And now that we can see her only source of income is her job as First Minister, you have to ask why a staffer didn't start slapping the accounts on the scanner and uploading and publishing them years ago, as promised. Not exactly a complex task, is it? On top of that, she only takes 2009 levels of pay. More virtue signalling. But do remember she does like to own very expensive pens, so she's not short of a bob or two, while not handing out the promised free laptops for all the school kids. Now, one could be forgiven for thinking that she was waiting for the best moment to declare how virtuously transparent she is by publishing her accounts. But the trouble is, that is not how transparency works. Transparency is about being open all the time, at the first opportunity, not just when you think the time is right to pick up a few brownie points from the electorate. Ignore her pathetically late and weak attempt to signal her transparency virtues. So you pay your taxes all your life and put money aside in a pension, just like successive governments advised us all to do. Then out of the blue, some left-wing think tank is advising the government to scrap the 25% tax-free lump sum you can get out of it, something that pension savers factor into their retirement planning for many years before they finally get their gold watch. And the Institute for Fiscal Studies argues that this lump sum should be limited or even scrapped because it benefits those with large pension pots. And from what I've read, what they want to see is those with large pension pots getting hammered, but those with small pension pots being subsidised. All in the pursuit of fairness. Sounds to me like wealth redistribution, pure and simple, and yet another disincentive to save, because every pot of money you invest in is a target for the taxman and the feckless. And now over to Richard.
Today is a very sad day for a lot of people around the world as the news is coming in from Turkey and Syria of the awful disaster that is unfolding there. And these people should be in our prayers and in our thoughts, and hopefully something we can actually do practically to help them would be a good thing. We are certainly good at sending money to places where it is not needed, so this might be one of those occasions where money is needed to help these people. And the headlines are full of this terrible news, and rightly so. This is bad news, worthy of being front page. This is not Happy Valley or the plot therein. No, these are people's lives. And today people will be waking up to hear the most awful news, the worst news you could possibly imagine about their relatives. In general, I would say the media is used as a tool for manipulating our view of reality and is very good at misdirecting us from the real news and events of the day. So today is a day where I look at the news headlines and I think, yes, that should be front page news. And you cannot underplay it, you can't. But I will say this, that every week, more than 3,000 people are leaving us here in the UK. 3,000 people every week. That's like almost double of what's happened in this awful event today. Yet, is it in the newspapers? Does it make the headlines? No, this is not headline front page news. People are leaving us unexpectedly and exceeding the amount that they should do. By 3,000, over 3,000 apparently now, a week. What's going on? Why aren't the newspapers and the rest of the media just absolutely ploughing into this dreadful scenario that's unfolding here? Not just in other countries, but here. And of course, Esther McVey did say in Parliament, oh my goodness, can we have an investigation on these excess you-know-whats? And the reply back was quite dismissive, if anything, saying that this isn't just happening here in the UK, this is taking place globally. Oh, right, okay. So that makes it all right then, does it? It's almost as if the government is trying to hide it, and so with the mainstream media. You'd swear they were both working together to push something, or have been trying to push something over the past few years, and peddling back on that is going to look very bad for both. What do you think, anyway? You tell us what you think. Leave it in the comment section, because to Jeff and myself, this is just beyond a joke now. You cannot sweep this under the carpet. It cannot be dismissed.